Do 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 do, etc., etc.
Welcome to another episode. Yes, this really is Carolyn Talks Television, and this is my fabulous co-host, Rachel Arnett.
Hello.
And today, we're talking game shows. You might guess what one of our favorites is.
There was a hint. It was very subtle. Very subtle.
But before we go right into that, which we can't wait to do, by the way, it's amazing that game shows have lasted as long as they have, especially when history talks about the scandal that nearly shut them down forever. Back in with the show 21, and they had a contestant who they were deeply enamored with, and so was the audience. And to continue to get ratings, they kept feeding Charles Van Doren the answers, and then they were in a booth, and they would make him look very nice looking and attractive and thoughtful. And then when his competitor was in the booth and they did not want them to win, they'd jack up the heat and make them sweat more.
I didn't realize that it went that far.
Oh, it was a nasty...
I thought they just fed him answers.
No,
wow.
It was a nasty piece of work. So the fact that game shows survived, not only to live another day, but now in 2020, and welcome to 2020, they are thriving and growing.
Exactly. And it does blow your mind a little bit, because the whole purpose of game shows really is to cheer someone on, and you go along with them and you play along with them. And when you find out that someone's cheating and it's kind of a rigged competition, it makes you not want to watch.
Yeah, it really, it's disheartening. It just hurts. It almost hurts you like you were cheated.
Yeah,
like
absolutely.
You were cheated.
And we all pick our favorites, and especially if whether the person who your favorite is cheating, and then you feel like you've been living a lie.
Right.
People get very intense. Or you feel like you said that you're the person that cheated. It's one of the reasons now why the gaming commissions are so intensely in oversight of game shows. Even shows like the MTV Challenges, where there's the possibility of winning money, they have people on hand at all times to make sure that no one is cheating. Because if anyone behind the scenes is cheating and there's money involved, that's a big, big problem.
And that brings us to being really enamored with shows. As we shared with you, one of our favorites is Jeopardy, as is so many others.
Absolutely.
I have yet to see when someone says the word game show, Jeopardy is, if not the first, the second thing they think of.
Yeah.
Second show.
Even people from other countries.
Oh, without question.
We'll watch YouTube videos. We'll watch hours of online streaming.
And by
Jeopardy.
now, all of you know that in January, there was a huge competition in Jeopardy, something they'd never done before, but the top 3 all-time Jeopardy super champions, biggest money winner, biggest record holder, and longest term contestant competed, and it was in prime time.
Yeah.
And the viewing for the networks it was shown on went sky high.
Oh, my dad DVR'd it. He watched, even though he watched it live, he would also rewatch it, because they were also great personalities. Which helped. I mean, they were cracking jokes at each other's expense. There was a sense of camaraderie, and they've been through the trenches of this game show together.
And they also clearly all had an incredible respect, which really was heartwarming for Alex Trebek.
Yep.
The host who gave a rebirth to the show that was originally done in the 60s with Art Fleming as the host, the daytime version, where the clues started at $10. By the way,
A little different
now, yeah. Although back then $10 was big bucks.
That's true.
When you got
inflation.
10 to 50.
If I was in a game show now and it was $10 increments,
yeah,
it's not worth the gas to get there.
Right? No. But in the mid '80s, they gave a rebirth to Jeopardy, and wow, it has flown. And of course, its back-to-back brother is Wheel of Fortune.
I said Wheel of House. That is not a show. I'm sorry. Yeah, Wheel of Fortune.
Wheel of Fortune with Pat Sajak,
Yep.
who was also not the original person, but it's Chuck Woolery.
Yep.
Did the daytime version of Wheel of Fortune.
Now, did Vanna White come on with Chuck Woolery, or did she come on with Alex Trebek? Do you know?
I'm pretty sure. I know she's been on. You mean with Pat Sajak?
Pat Sajak, yeah.
Right. I'm pretty sure she came on for sure with Pat Sajak from day one. She may have started out before that, but I'm not sure.
Yeah. Well, it's even funny to see how the show has evolved. Just watching old footage of her literally turning letters on the wall, then like removing a curtain, and now it's just attached like a touch screen, just tapping it.
And she did come out in the news recently and said she actually does have to touch the letter. It's not like the letter's happening and she's just,
she has to like activate it.
Yeah. she's not just window dressing.
No.
She really is doing something when she's touching that screen.
Yeah. And it's just funny to see how the technology behind some of these shows have evolved, but really the show itself hasn't. And it still works.
And it's interesting the nature of game shows because they run the gamut from having to be super intelligent. I say Jeopardy. You have to be super intelligent and very capable with your hands
Very
and so
quick
forth.
on your feet, very...
to do everything to win a game. To win Jeopardy, it's single Jeopardy game. I'm not talking about these super money winners and super multiple day winners.
Yeah, just to win one 30-minute episode.
It's extreme because you have to have a timing in your buzzer and quick recall in some random categories that you may not necessarily be
Russian
great at.
literature.
Yeah, right.
Okay.
Yeah, right.
Dostoevsky, that's what I got. That's it.
I was
Every
thinking
answer.
Tchaikovsky, and that's not even literature, that's music. So
Okay,
there
so
you go.
maybe we're not auditioning like we planned. We'll do the Wheel of Fortune once.
There
We're
we
good.
go. There we
You
go.
still need to be intelligent, but it's a less recall and more, like I was pretty good at Hangman. So, you know what I mean? That's kind of where I'm going.
Yeah. Well, Wheel of Fortune is Hangman. Let's face it. It's
it is.
Hangman with enough money to build a house if you play just right.
Yeah.
And that's the thing. The other thing is the stakes are bigger now than they've ever been. It's incredible. You know, you have these $1 million, how to be a millionaire. Who wants to be a millionaire? Excuse me.
Yeah.
Who wants to be a millionaire?
Yep.
Regis Philbin brought that game, and people were like, I am all in. I want to be a millionaire. And you even, and I thought this was incredible, got to call a friend at home.
Yes.
You could phone a friend.
Ability
That was the
to interact with someone at home was so cool. And I remember being very tense because what if they didn't answer? Or what if you called, but it was the wrong friend? And Tony didn't know anything about Russian literature, and you should have called
Jane.
Exactly.
And
the pressure.
And those were exciting moments. They have a lot of games now also where you risk. Who Wants to Be a Millionaire is you risk. Deal or No Deal, that game show was with Howie Mandel, a risk.
Oh, yeah. Well, because with Jeopardy, it's wagers for some of the questions, but not the majority of it. So
Right.
you have seen people do really well and then lose everything at the end or double their money. But with Deal or No Deal, it was like that level of tension the entire time.
The entire game. The whole game is about, do you want to take another chance?
Yeah. It's literally the whole, open the suitcase. And you also just think about I know it's a weird angle to take, but the jobs that are created, like, there are not many people that could just stand and open a suitcase.
Like, and look good doing it.
Yeah, like what kind of career are you interested in? Suitcasing. Like, but they made it work.
And you know what? That reminds me, because I don't know why, but to this day, I remember on Let's Make a Deal with Monty Hall, who I actually got to meet once when I was younger.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, that was really exciting. He was at a bar mitzvah that I was attending.
Cool.
Yeah, family bar mitzvah. He was the family friend.
Very
it was
nice.
Really fun. It was fun.
That's awesome.
But Monty Hall doing Let's Make a Deal and Carol Merrill. I don't know if that name was real or that was her stage name.
Carol Merrill.
Carol Merrill opened those curtains. She would open all the curtains with the zonks. She would open the curtains at the end of the show when you picked
The
door
new
number 1, 2, or
car.
3.
Yep.
And it was always going to be good, but was it going to be good?
Yeah.
Or good? Oh my God, good.
Yep. Well, now it's hosted by Wayne Brady. And it's very, their styles are so different.
And it's incredible because Monty Hall was a game show host. He was a host.
Oh, yeah. That is what he did, right? His bread and butter.
Wayne Brady
is everything.
Is a performer. I saw Wayne Brady on Broadway in Kinky Boots.
Yep.
So, you know, seeing Wayne Brady do Let's Make a Deal to me is like, wow, this is going to be fun, isn't it?
Yep.
But he doesn't usually break out in song, but he has sung a little and he has danced a little.
And he's just got the performer energy where he's always at an 11, even if everyone is at a 7. He like has a way of bringing people up just by his energy level.
And he's got this voice that's so engaging. You can't help but watch him and love what you see. You have to love what you see. It's just incredible.
And some shows do not survive a new host, but he has done really well. And I would say Drew Carey has done really well with Price of Right. Price is Right.
I think, and I'm sure all of you have seen The Price is Right at least once. This show has a really long history. It was brought back by Bob Barker.
Yep.
So long ago, I still had bedtime. My parents were still giving me the bedtime. Okay, because it was an evening special show.
Oh, I see. I've only known it as a daytime show.
It was in the evening. It was that good, and Bob Barker hosted it, and it was incredibly. I was allowed to watch The Price is Right, and then it was time to go to bed. After that.
Yep. Well, if you think about it, the premise of the show is people know how much things cost. And what kind of sell was that? Like, can you imagine being in the boardroom and someone's like, we'd like to have a show. All right, what's their special skill? They know prices. But it works, and they make the mini games like Plinko, which has now become its own cultural icon, Plinko.
That's right. The fact that I could say Plinko, and even people who don't watch The Price is Right will know what I'm talking about.
People know the phrase Showcase Showdown, even if they've never seen the show.
That's right. That's right. And they didn't always, they didn't even always call it that, but it just got more and more engaging. And they like Jeopardy and like Wheel of Fortune, raised the bar.
Yeah.
Got more exciting, more interesting, more games every year. But Bob Barker, when he chose to retire, I have to say, I wondered if the show was going to survive.
Yeah. He was, at least I didn't know that there was the previous version. He was synonymous.
Oh, I never saw that. That was
he was synonymous with the show for me. That's like, when they talked about anybody but him doing it, like it felt like he'd been doing it for 40 years. I'm not sure that's an accurate number, but it felt like that.
My guess is it was pretty darn close. He did Truth or Consequences, which was also really one of his game show, and he did The Price is Right. And that was his career. The Price is, they were synonyms, the name of the show and Bob Barker. The fact that Drew Carey was able to take that show and make it even a bigger success.
Yeah.
And it's still a daytime, there's not too many daytime game shows that have survived on network television. And that's the thing. You have Wayne Brady in Let's Make a Deal.
Yep.
And Drew Carey hosting The Price is Right, and they're both on CBS. I'm trying to think, are there any other network game shows that are on the day? In the day?
Not first runs. Like I see a lot of Who Wants to Be a Millionaire backlog. Like you'll see some of these.
But aren't those on cable channels?
Maybe Family Feud. That's cable channel.
They're on cable channels, not networks.
Wow.
And that says a lot about those two shows, particularly The Price is Right, because I didn't think anybody could carry it off when Bob Barker left.
Yeah.
So hats off to him. But moving on, there are so many game shows out there, and there are even ones geared to kids, I have to say. You and I were just talking. We could not stop talking about two of them. Go ahead. I'm going to let you go on these.
So one of my favorite shows when I was little was Double Dare on Nickelodeon. And for one, I loved that it was a family-based show, like a whole family participated.
Yes.
And that was something that I hadn't really seen before. There would be, special episodes of other shows where it would be a mom and a dad playing Wheel of Fortune together, or a sister and a brother, and they would do little things like that. But the entire family's there, and it's trivia, but then physical activity, and snot and slime. It was just this perfect hurricane of wonderful things.
And when you say whole family, it wasn't like Family Feud where they were all adults.
No.
This was the families with little kids at home.
Yep.
The whole family with the kids.
Yeah. So the kids, for me, it was really cool just to think of the idea of like going on a game show with my parents and doing something like that.
Oh, for sure. I actually once envisioned, I thought, wonder if Jen would want to do this.
Yep.
And then I thought, yeah, but slime, I'm not thinking I want to do it actually.
Yeah. And I mean, I still remember the one obstacle where you had to dig up the giant nose to find the flag to pull it down for the obstacle course at the end.
Okay.
It was gross.
And that was hosted by Mark Summers, who was
Hosted a
very
lot,
young.
yeah.
He hosted a lot, did a lot on the kids'
Yeah,
networks.
He did another show on Nickelodeon as well that I remember
But
being
then
fantastic.
he moved on to bigger and better. He actually ended up being a host on the Food Network.
Yep.
I mean, he just became the host of all. The host, the host with the most.
Yes.
He just kept going from place to place, hosting whatever he was hosting. Not necessarily a game show. He just became a host.
Yeah,
And he was good at it.
very good.
Because he could engage a parent to watch a show that poured slime on human beings.
Somehow it didn't seem as foolish as like when I look at it now.
Well,
I'm
when
like,
we speak about it, it's like, really? Did we what? Did I devote a half an hour to that show? Yeah,
But
I
it was
did.
just so much fun. It was so much fun to watch. I can't even imagine how much fun it would have been to actually be on the show.
And the thing about these shows is you have to have a host that's engaging.
To both adults and children, which is
In this particular
pretty darn
case,
hard.
yes.
Yeah.
But in general, with game shows, it's the host that makes the show.
Yeah.
I mean, I think that's sort of what we're saying in many ways. Ironically, one of the longest, if not the longest, game shows ever was a show called What's My Line. Started so far back, it actually may have been on radio. That I'm not 100% sure, but I know it was at the birth of black and white TV, birth of television. And you weren't going to win a lot of money or anything. It was could the actual actors on a panel guess what you did?
Yeah. What was cool or unique about you in your life? And it was yes or no questions, right?
It was kind of like a 20 questions.
Yeah.
You know, do you have an unusual job? Like, you know, and they would have people like the
Does it
people who were the
involve
window
cacti?
like the window cleaner at the Empire State Building kind of person.
Exactly.
And that's what they would have to guess. And the host would move it along.
Yeah. Well, and the thing that's cool about that show is Nickelodeon did its own version in the, I want to say 90s, early 2000s, because I remember Kenan Thompson being on it as a guest. And I just remember because I was watching 101 Dalmatians with Zach last week. They had a parody in the original 101 Dalmatians animated movie called What's My Crime? That the two robbers, Jasper and Horace.
So even
We're
Disney
watching.
gives a nod
Yeah,
to What's
exactly.
My Line. That's pretty good. When Disney gives you a nod, you know you have something
Exactly.
going there. And then the other children's show that you and I were talking about, because it was a guilty pleasure of mine. I used to use the excuse I was watching with my daughter, but I was watching, was
Legends of the Hidden Temple, which to this day I will never forgive every single child that could not put together the Shrine of the Silver Monkey.
because at the end, if you got to be the person to do the final round, you had to put it together at the end and go through an incredible maze of challenges and freaky people, almost like a fun house.
Yep. They would jump out at you. And there
was
were
in this hidden temple.
built-in obstacles and tasks within it. But there was something about, it was a 3-piece puzzle. It was a base, it was like a torso, and it was a head on a long stick. And they just couldn't get it. And I remember being so angry all the time.
When they got that far and didn't get it.
I felt so bad for them because they would go through all these physical tasks and trivia, and then they'd finally get to the temple and be caught by their temple guard and done.
Now, I have to mention a show because of the hosts. Once again, it's all about the hosts. The
Yeah.
shows are all great. They all have their own character, I have to say.
Yeah.
Considering how many, I mean, we have a list in front of us. I think there's like 30 shows in front of me now, so I promise you we won't discuss all 30.
Yeah. And it's not remotely exhaustive.
No,
It's
no,
just like
there's just
highlights
these are just a few that I found that I couldn't.
that we
didn't-
could not talk about.
We could not talk about, but we probably won't. But the one I'm thinking of is where the hosts once again made the show $100,000 Pyramid. So once again, you had to be smart. You had to be able to have verbal skills.
Yeah, you had to
At
be
the
able to.
drop
It
of a
was. It was
hat.
really just communication, comprehension, quick.
In some ways, I thought that it was the graduate school version of Password.
Oh, I like that. Where you had to figure out implications instead of just direct phrases.
You know, it was basically synonyms.
Okay. Yep.
You know, Password was a synonym. If the word was walk, you would say,
Run slowly.
but you could only use one word.
that's right.
So you would say toddle. You know, that kind of a thing, and
Yep.
try to get the person opposite you to say the word walk. But here in $100,000 Pyramid, you had to get people to say an actual category of things. And the hosts would move this show on, and of course, I have to say, you know, still miss Dick Clark,
Oh.
original host of the $25,000
Yes.
Pyramid when he started the show.
Then inflation hit, and the pyramid kept getting more expensive.
You know, the Pyramid got more expensive. Donny Osmond took the role of host, and I was like, whoa, my teenage crush just is doing a game show. Hello. And then on top of that, now we have, and it is out there still, Michael Strahan.
Yep.
Is there something he doesn't do, by the way? He starts playing
know.
football. I don't know.
He started with football, then went to TV host. I
Yeah,
don't
he
know.
was on with
He can
Kelly
dance.
Ripa.
Yeah.
Then he's on Good Morning America every morning.
Yeah.
And he has a midday show on the same network, also on ABC. And he's hosting the $100,000 Pyramid. I'm thinking that he skips sleep.
You might not
It's
sleep.
the only way.
Yeah.
It's the only way.
He's got a time turner, like Harry Potter.
There we go.
There we go.
But once again, as we said, it's the hosts, because the hosts made these shows so wonderful. And some of these hosts, I can even hear their voices. When you hear Bob Eubanks and the Newlywed Game, oh my God, talk about one of the stupidest games, and I'm sorry, those of you who really loved and thought that the Newlywed Game was a highbrow show, I do apologize very much. This is a Carolyn's opinion moment. If I was a newlywed, I would never in my wildest nightmares go on that show.
And, oh my
and
gosh,
risk
no.
my marriage and my in-laws' relationship and just about anything else.
My privacy,
My dignity.
Oh.
Because that show was totally asking you the most private things, and these newlyweds were just like going there.
Just putting their business out there.
And
Sometimes they were really wrong. That was like, oof.
And every time I would hear him say the phrase, making whoopee, like, where was your favorite place to make whoopee? All I thought of was, why do I need to know this?
Yeah.
This is so not, and you know, I thought it was a little funny. But I got to say, wow, you got to really want to be on a TV show to go on that.
Yeah, that one doesn't work for me.
Now, on the flip side, I kind of was amused by the dating game.
See, dating game now for me is super creepy, but I enjoyed it. Like when I look back, like the answers that they had, like, what would you do on a picnic? Well, first, we would walk down the sand, and then we would
Right.
say hello to a hermit crab. I would pull a bottle of wine out of my backpack, and we would enjoy it while this. Like, what? No, you wouldn't. You'd push her in the water, you'd play, and then you'd go home because you'd have sand in your bathing suit. Like, that's what you would do. But it was entertaining.
And the dating game, back then hosted by Jim Lang, even the set was the essence of if you had to have a photo in the Oxford English Dictionary of the OED of groovy. The dating game set was groovy.
Yes.
With the funky power flowers in the
Oh,
background.
the color scheme.
And
Lots of mustard, lots of
and
navy brown. I don't know what to call it.
Oh,
Army
but then
brown.
they had the
Oh, yeah.
reds and the pop with the blue and the
Oh,
this and the that. And the attire that they would give their guest who was picking his or her date.
Yeah. Well, and that's another show that's such a keystone that it's been parodied in so many movies
my
and TV
gosh.
shows. It's been parodied on RuPaul's Drag Race. It was parodied in Mallrats, a movie by Kevin Smith. It's just one of those things.
And then one of the most risque games. Risque, even back when I was younger watching it, has always been Match Game. Match Game with 6 people, which I think is almost the risque version of Hollywood Squares. And to me, I
Absolutely.
would put them back to back because it's about the witty answer.
Yeah,
You were not going to be
it's very often not about the correct answer.
right. And you would not, on both of those shows, the guest stars who made the panel for the two contestants, who were vying to win money and prizes, I think the answer was meant to be, do you want to be asked back next week? Then you better make this audience, the studio audience, laugh.
Yeah.
Because if they laugh and we get high ratings, then you'll be asked back. Because when you fill in the blank on Match Game,
Man.
that was when I started to really learn the nature of how often you could be beeped out.
Yeah. Oh my gosh.
You know, they would get crazy, and there were some serious candidates on that show.
That's another one parodied by RuPaul's Drag Race.
Oh, but that was
Brilliantly.
parodied all over the
Oh, yeah.
place. And then Hollywood Squares, though, that was something special. And I think it's something special because it lasted so long and it featured major stars who at different times had, for example, the center square, Paul Lynde,
Oh.
who was a Broadway actor, by the way.
And just about the funniest human being that ever existed.
Made
He
a
was-
career
he
out of
was-
being
oh.
the center square.
That was what he did, yeah, after all.
After his Broadway career, you know, this is the man who did Bye Bye Birdie and ends up as the center
gosh.
square. And then it went, you know, to Wally Cox and Whoopi Goldberg.
Yeah, I remember
She
the
began
Whoopi
her
version is
career-
when I started watching.
She began her career as a center square. So there is so much wonderful things. And guess what? You could see all of the shows we've talked about either on YouTube.
Oh yeah,
Or on the
I
game
will
show
sometimes.
networks.
My favorite thing to watch on YouTube though are the outtakes from the shows when people give the most ridiculous answers, which 90% of the time is Family Feud.
But
But oh yeah, but you can watch episodes, outtakes, everything.
And we hope that you'll watch some of these, enjoy them, play along. Don't ever miss Jeopardy.
Yeah.
My last word there. And for Rachel and myself, thank you, and we will see you again next month. Enjoy.